What's going on, everybody? I'm really excited about this episode of Fit Over 40 with Coach Clarence. I'm interviewing Jeanell Green, and she is a relationship coach. What really makes her stand out is she primarily deals with men, which is interesting. And I will tell you guys, she was very disarming right from the beginning when I first started talking to her. So I want you to sit back, relax, and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're not currently following the show. And leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about our conversation. And I look forward to your feedback. Here we go.
If you're over 40 and want to be the best version of yourself, Fit Over 40 with Coach Clarence is here to help.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fit Over 40. I am your host, Coach Clarence, and today I have Jeanell Green, and she's a relationship coach. So I'm gonna have fun with this one today. We've talked a lot about relationships because when you're over 40, you've had a few relationships in your life. Some of them are still going, some of them you've lost. Maybe you could pick up a few pointers and about how you can be better in your relationships. And maybe she'll talk about all relationships besides personal, because I think they all kind of tie together in some way or not. So without further ado, Jeanell, why don't you tell everybody how you got to where you are sitting right now?
Well, that's an excellent question. Well, first of all, where I'm sitting right now is Vancouver, Canada.
Nice.
My prior life to becoming a coach, which actually just happened around the age of 40, which is perfect. I was in sales. I was flying all over the world, selling software and living what I thought was my best life. And I don't know, around the time I got to 40, you know what? I actually just had come back from a free trip. I want a free trip to Bermuda and I want a free trip to Rome. And I thought, okay, when I do this thing and I like get to the top of the mountain, then my life will be complete. And the trip were incredible. And then I got home and I was like, okay, now what? Been there, done that. Now what?
Yeah.
And I felt like my soul had started to kind of feel restless.
Hmm.
Like there was something else that I was meant to do. And I really tapped into my spirit and just tried to open up my heart because for the last 20 years, I thought this was the rest of my life. Like this was it, right?
Yeah.
Done deal. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. No, it's not. And to give you a little bit of history, I've been divorced as well. So I've been happily married for 18 years to my best friend, Michael. He is my teacher. He is my best friend. He's my playmate. We play music together. We laugh a lot. We are
When you
very,
say you play music, you mean play instruments or you mean
yeah,
they're on some
yeah.
key? What
So,
instruments do you play?
I play the piano and I'm a vocalist. So I sing at church and I live stream every Saturday for our church, which started during COVID. And my husband is a guitarist and bass player and piano player and singer and songwriter.
Wow.
And so he's in a Rage Against the Machine band. He's in a tribute band who they travel everywhere. He's also in a Pink Floyd band. They travel.
This is
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so he gets to do his passion. I get to do my work and what I'm passionate about. And then we come together to do our own jam sessions, and we got a music room downstairs. And I really support him in living his best life because when he gets to do his music, he shows up in a whole different energy. And I notice when he's a little bit down, I'll ask him, "Hey, babe, when was the last time you were down in your music room? Go down to your music." And then he's great. And he just loves to jam to like Stevie Wonder bass lines and whatever else floats his boat. So, but before that, I was married before, and like a lot of people, I think got into getting married for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Mostly because A, I didn't want to be alone. Second of all, being Filipino, there's that like
Pressure.
expectation, the pressure, the kids, when are you getting married? You get that about 15 years old that they start questioning you and telling you don't wait too long because when you get too old, nobody's gonna want you and all this garbage. Anyway, so I discovered very quickly in that first marriage that hmm, that I had not taken responsibility for my own expectations of what I wanted this man to be. And so, like a lot of people, I spent so much energy trying to change him and fix him to be the man I wanted him to be. And at the end of the day, I just got super clear that this is not the guy. He is someone else, and that's okay. It just doesn't work for me. I had very clear expectations based on what I saw at home, at what a partnership, a marriage looks like. Like my parents did everything together. They cooked, they cleaned, they went to church together. Everything was together. And this relationship was very not that. And it didn't become that until after we got married. So I almost feel like he sold the package, and then I got the package and it wasn't what was promised on the label. So I felt very betrayed and duped, and I had buyer's remorse for sure. But being a Catholic, that was another layer of it, was like, okay, I'm clear that this is not the man for me. So how do I go about this? Do I just suck it up and just like pretend like I'm okay? But even in trying to do that, I realized like I was dying inside and I started to become someone that
Yes,
I didn't,
got you.
right? His energy started to rub off on me.
Okay.
And I started to become mean and just not a happy person. And my family started to notice that. And when they pointed it out to me, I'm like, okay, something's got to give. And about 2.5 years later, I did the work. I got clear about myself. I got responsible. And I just said, hey, you know what? I've been blaming you and I'm sorry. You are great the way you are. You're just not for me.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
so, yeah, and so I got out of that marriage with $85 is what our divorce costed. It was great because we didn't have kids, we didn't have property, so it was a
You
clean
got off
break.
cheap.
I got easy, yeah. And then I sat down and I started to get really clear about the kind of partner I wanted. And what I discovered was that my feelings of unworthiness, because of what I had gone through with my dad, which I'll share in a minute, had caused me to attract a certain quality of man.
Sure, I believe in that.
And
You attract a lot what you're putting out.
exactly. And what I saw was that I felt so talking about what happened to me, I'll talk about what happened to me when I was 9. So when I was 9, like I told you, my parents had a great relationship. But my mom was always busy. My mom is a social butterfly. And my mom's best friend, started to have interest in my father. And next thing you know, she's pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And so my mom said, well, you need to decide. My dad said, well, I'll spend 4 days with you and 3 days with her. My mom's like, no.
He actually negotiated that with a big chest.
Yeah. My mom was like, no.
His
And
full chest.
he said, I want to be with you, but she's pregnant. So, I mean, I have to kind of be there. And so my mom was said, choose. And so he chose them.
Wow.
Um, and then 3 years later, he came back home and asked for forgiveness. And my mom said yes. And we got to have the amazing family before my dad passed away shortly thereafter. And so
Wow. It's amazing.
I'm a huge advocate of forgiveness. And my mom's a very godly woman. So she was like, you know what? This is the mission that God has given me, to take care of my husband, to love him until his last day. And I want my kids to have a dad because he
You
was
know
a great
what?
dad.
That's so important that you say that because I feel like a lot of relationships could be saved if they would just learn to forgive, but they get stuck in that emotion of that betrayal or whatever, and they can't
Right.
move on. But there could be, I've heard of a lot of stories of the similar things, getting divorced, coming back together, and it works out. But so it's
Yeah.
like you guys had one of those.
Yeah. But, in doing the work, and this is why I wanted to kind of bring this back into my divorce, in doing that work while I was going through my divorce, was I realized that that little 9-year-old standing there watching her dad leave that day made 3 subconscious decisions. Number one, she's unlovable. Number two, she can't trust men. And number three, everybody she loves will eventually leave.
Mm.
So in that moment, as a 20, I guess 25, 26-year-old, I saw, okay, this is why I've been attracting this level of relationship, because knowing now that I didn't feel worthy, why would I find a good guy? He's gonna leave. So I'm just gonna find crappy men who are gonna abuse me, lie to me, cheat on me. Because then when they leave, it's not a big deal.
Interesting.
So I figured all of that out, and then I was able to really shift my being, deal with my own trauma, take responsibility and then start to create, who do I need to become to be the kind of woman that attracts the kind of man that I've always dreamed of. And now I get to be with this gorgeous, beautiful, perfect man who is my angel. And we just have the best, funnest, easy marriage. And I feel like I want to be that role model for other couples who have grown up without both parents, who have grown up watching dysfunction or coming from a family of divorce where they don't even know what a happy, healthy relationship looks like, even if it hit them over the head.
Yeah, that's
So
very
that's a little bit about me. Oh, and
okay.
fun fact, I got to sing for Maya Angelou about 10 years ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and I got to meet the queen, like actually speak to her, get a photo of her when I was 6 years old.
Wow, that's a
So those are just some fun facts, but
little fun
that's me in a
fact.
nutshell.
All right, so you're a coach, you're a relationship coach. You said something interesting before we started rolling that most of your clients primarily are men.
Yeah,
How did you fall into that? Because maybe in my limited understanding, it's a lot of times it's the women doing the work. Men seem to think they know everything. And I'm speaking as a man, you don't hear
yeah,
a lot of men who go, I'm going into therapy. A lot more are though. So
yeah,
things have
yeah,
changed in a positive way. I've been in therapy. I am an advocate for therapy, but what's the conversation like when a man comes to see you?
yeah. Well, first of all, it was not intentional at all. There's nothing on my website that says anything about men specifically. However, I think in my background in corporate and just my approach, because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not interested in talking about the past and swimming in that crappy, stinky water. I'm really about strategy, teaching, education, empowerment, and really being accountable for who you are and who you've been, and then more specifically, where do you want to get to? So I think men just kind of resonate more with that. I'm kind of a no BS person, and a lot of women, when I call them on their BS, they get really upset with me. Where men are, they just want answers. They just want to know, okay, what am I doing wrong? Janelle, please tell me. And as a woman, and I know how to communicate in man speak, they just get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I come with no judgment. I come with none of that stuff that they sometimes are experiencing at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the funny thing, Coach Clarence. Most men will cry to me in the first phone call.
Really?
Yeah. And these are doctors, lawyers, CEOs, like those kind of men. And
I'm,
so,
I'm, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I've
yeah,
interviewed a lot of women who coach other women. And one of the things that I said, speaking as a man, and I hear my male friends talk about, a lot of men don't feel like they can go to the women in their life and be
yeah,
vulnerable. So that doesn't surprise me that a man would be vulnerable with you because you're not the one he has to deal with every day, and
yeah.
maybe you create obviously a safe space so they can open up.
Yeah. So, talking about infidelity, like usually it's the man, or at least those are the ones that I'm getting. And that could be a very confronting conversation for them to own up to. And so I don't ask the usual questions like, why did you do it? Having them feel bad. It's like, okay, so tell me about, here's where I go. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your parents.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the light bulbs start going on. Well, yeah, my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was a people pleaser. She got abused. And I start to help them put the pieces together as to why they might feel either unworthy or might be self-sabotaging or might be dealing with, the feeling of being unappreciated, the lack of affection, and why that might be related to their upbringing.
Hmm.
So once I make that correlation, their eyes they all of a sudden like they have this aha moment where they realize, oh, it's not my fault. You mean this is just a symptom of something deeper that I just need to figure out, and I'm not broken, and I'm not a bad person? Oh,
How do
okay.
you
So
get them to
now,
sell that to their partners? Told you it
well,
wasn't my fault I was doing that. How do you
yeah,
get them to sell that?
because here's the thing, it's not about what happened, it's about where do you want to go. Listen,
Gotcha.
if you
Gotcha.
want to sit and blame each other, Janelle is not the coach for you. But if you say to me, this happened to us, and we still really love each other, and we know that there's something deeper, and maybe it's not even personal, and we're really committed to being the best parents and healing from this, now we can talk. Because in my space, there is no blame, there is no fault, there is no good, bad, right, wrong. It is how do we get what we want, called peace, love, joy, intimacy, whatever that is. That's my focus.
Yeah. I feel like it's not personal sometimes. I feel like sometimes for men, it could be just validation. They're still constantly seeking that validation, and that's how they do it. That's one form of it,
Yeah,
obviously. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
so let me ask you
Absolutely.
this. I know you're dealing with a lot of men. Who do you think has more infidelity, men or women?
To be honest, well, I think men a little bit, but I think women are starting to do it more. And if
Absolutely.
I'm really straight with you, Coach Clarence, I have been on that other side. And that's why I have so much compassion, because if you had asked me a few years before that, would I ever cheat on my husband? No, of course not. You don't go into marriage to go, hey, I'm going to get married so I can go cheat on my husband. No. But for me, and I don't share this information with a lot of people, but you know what? I'm just going to let it all hang out
I
loose because
appreciate that.
yeah.
You can
Um,
learn.
because I want people, yeah, because I don't want people to think I got it all together and I'm perfect. Like, no, I came from a very messed up background where I had to do the work to get where I am. So I want people to know that no matter where they are and how dark, wherever they are in their darkness, that they always can get on the other side of it. But for me, I had a partner who showed no affection. I thought I lost my mojo. I was 24 and I'm like, how can I lose it? Because I had a very high sex drive, but yet I couldn't get off. He wasn't interested. And I'm like, is this it? And I so deeply craved feeling passion and connection, and I wasn't getting it. And I was like starving. And so when, I had I but the thing was when I chose to do that, and it happened once. When I chose to do that, I did it from a very conscious place. I already had decided at that point that this relationship was going nowhere. And so I took full responsibility for that, you know what, I'm gonna go do this. And it means that this is over like permanently, and I'm okay with that. Now, not saying that what I did was right, heck no, but I was in such a dark and desperate and lonely place, and coming from feeling unworthy, I just needed someone to validate that I was still beautiful and wanted and sexy and all those things that we want to feel. And so when people say, I don't know why I cheated, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And you feel so much shame and guilt from doing what you did, but there's something in you that just needed to feel something that you weren't feeling in your other relationship. And there's something to be responsible for.
Did you tell him that you stepped out?
No.
No. Well, if he's watching
Uh,
now, hopefully he's not stalking you because he might know
Oh
now.
no, he's been married. Like seriously, he's been married like twice or three times
Oh, wow.
already.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. But definitely not my proudest moment for sure. And I still grapple with that. But would I have changed it? I don't know if I would have done different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's again, you can never judge someone until you've been in their shoes. So that's why I'm like, hey, you know what? You guys can judge me all you want, but I got on the other side of it. I've been working on my forgiveness with myself and the Lord. And I'm now in a really beautiful, healthy relationship where I really and I do work to, first of all, help others heal while I help myself heal at the same time.
That's awesome. So, what do you think the number one issue is? I mean, most people immediately say communication, but it's beyond communication because people talk to each other. They say, "Good morning, how you doing? I'll be off at 5. I'll see you at 6, whatever." They're communicating. But where do you feel, especially in a lot of relationships, that communication kind of goes to let me go back a little bit. To
Yeah.
me, the ultimate communication is intimacy. When you can
Ah,
be 100% comfortable to say anything and not feel judged,
right.
not feel, um, you know, merely for men. not being judged, and let's say maybe they're having a hard time at work, or maybe things aren't going well, maybe they're not making as much money as they want. Those things can create an environment where you shell away, and maybe that person that's outside the relationship is big up in you, as we say. Hey, you look nice. This is a nice suit. And next thing you
Yeah.
know, they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So where do you think that goes wrong in a relationship, and how can you recognize those signs?
Yeah. Well, I think that communication is only a symptom of a deeper issue, right? And when people say we don't communicate well, that's not the problem. The problem is that there's lack of intimacy, lack of connection, lack of respect, lack of forgiveness. You
Mhm.
know, the one thing I can say about me and my husband is there is nothing between us. It is clean. It is safe. We clean it every day. And so I think one of the things that men need to understand is, yeah, communication is really important. Even just to say, hey, you know what, honey, in case I'm being a little bit like kind of closed today, I'm just dealing with stuff. I got this thing at work going on, rather than just saying, nothing's wrong. And she knows something's wrong. So she's going to keep picking at you until you get really annoyed and you don't want to share. But, you know, all she wants is to be in your world, to know what you're dealing with. And so, you know, both me and my husband, we just say that. I'm like, hey, babe, you know what? If I'm kind of like not all here today, this is what I'm dealing with right now. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm thinking about. And I want you to know it's not personal because we take everything so personally,
Right, we
right?
do. We do.
So I think, yeah, communication is important, but you have to have first that level of safety and trust within your relationship to know that your partner is going to say, got it. Okay, well, I'll be over here when you're ready to talk and just love you through that without judgment or and any of that stuff. And I think a lot of women have to do a lot of work because we were brought up to be judgmental, to be critical from our own parents.
Mhm.
So that's why I think, you know, working with couples is a lot faster and easier than trying to do it by yourself, especially if you're someone who isn't a great listener. So sometimes men will come to me and say, well, here's the problem of my marriage. I'm like, okay. So I start, you know, asking questions and everything they tell me is, I don't know. I said, okay, well, if you don't know, who do I ask? Because I can't help you
Right.
if you don't know. So then I'll say to him, okay, well, what does she complain about?
No. Everything, damn it.
Everything. Okay, well, what specifically? Like if she were here, what would she say to me? So then I can start to unpack that, but it's, you know, the way men listen, the way women listen, it's sometimes it gets lost in translation.
Right.
And especially women, we like to add meaning to something else and twist it, and
Oh
then it
my
comes
God, I
out,
love you. Yes.
right? And then
The
you're like,
gospel.
that's
It's
not
not even
it.
what we're talking about, but okay.
We're talking about this, and all of a sudden we're talking about like doing
Yes.
the dishes or taking out the. It's like, wait, hold on. How did we get here?
Right. I love it. Oh my God, that's so true. So how do you get the trust to get them to open up so you can help them?
I don't, you know what? I'm still trying to figure out my secret sauce. All I know
I
is
think
like,
you got to see because I've only been on this thing with you about 10 minutes maybe, but I feel very comfortable. You feel very comfortable. You share some people you just get around them and they have this aura of non-judgment. Like you don't seem like somebody who would judge someone. And that's the first thing. People probably do want to address their issue, but they're afraid. Everybody's afraid of being judged. We all want to be liked and accepted. No matter how cool you think you are, everybody wants to be accepted. So when you
yeah,
got issues, you need to find a safe space to be able to talk about the so
yeah,
speak to how you how to tear down those walls. Do you share your story? Because
yeah.
sometimes it's not always infidelity. It just may be to that point. It's so bad that I'm gonna do something. I may leave. I may go find somebody else. How do you get them to feel comfortable with you?
Yeah, I think definitely sharing my story is one. And yeah, and sometimes I'll share very vulnerably about my story. But honestly, in the beginning, I really get them to focus on what is it that they want? Because what we're clear about is what we don't want. Therefore, we get more of what we don't want. But then when I say, okay, so what do you want? They're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, okay, well, let's create that. So if you had intimacy, love, and happiness in your life, how would your life look different? And so they might share with me, well, you know, we'd be having sex more. We'd be going on dates. We could talk about anything. I wouldn't have to lie to her because then because that's a big thing for women too, right? Is lying. But men don't want to get in trouble. But that's really what breaks the trust. And so when I can kind of give them a little bit of here's you might want to stop doing. And here's what, this is the man that you want to become, and I can help you get there. Then they start to go, oh, okay. And then the other thing I think is at the end of the day, my job is to let them know that A, they're not the only ones dealing with this. They're not the only person on the planet who's having relationship issues. Number two, that they're not alone, that they have the support, and that they're not broken. There's nothing wrong with them. And that's why I kind of go into the past first. Just tell me about your parents. And can you see how maybe that little kid created a story that he's unlovable, he's, XYZ, and now it's showing up in your relationship now. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then they say, yes. Okay, well, let's work on just dealing with that. So again, there's no blame, no fault, no good, no bad. It's just let's change the way you think, the way you feel, and so that you can show up as the man that you want to be for your wife. Because she wants that too.
Right.
But right now you guys are just kind of getting tangled in this like lost in translation thing. So we'll just start to unpack that. And so they're really appreciative of that. And again, I think it's just the way that I communicate. I really don't go into the fluffy stuff as little as possible, but it's important to understand like what are those emotions that are driving the thoughts that make you think I can't trust her, she can't trust me, or whatever. She doesn't love me, I'm not good enough, right? All that stuff.
And men have those thoughts too, even though they don't want to say
Yeah.
they have those thoughts. So when do you bring the spouse or the other person in to the coaching?
Yeah, it really is up to them. Sometimes they'll approach me privately and just say, hey, I want to work on myself. My wife is not interested. They'll be really straight about that. My wife is already like too late, not interested. But I want to be the best man I can be and maybe hopefully either bring her in or shift the relationship without her even being involved. And it's totally possible.
What do you
Like
see the most success in, both or solo? Because if one person is showing up better and the other person has issues they haven't resolved, it's going to go back to the thing eventually, or the person's going to go, I've tried, I've fixed myself, I'm out.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's a God thing that because here's the thing about women. Women check out when there's no hope. They've tried and tried and nothing works and they give up and then they check out. And I think men are like that too, but women more so. So when the man starts to change, when he shows up, communicates differently, acts differently, is more patient, is actually curious about how she feels and is open to listening to her feedback. Now she's like, oh,
Who you seeing?
who is this man? Yeah, who are you right now? And are you for real? So I have this story. I met this guy. His wife and him have been having problems for 11 years. And after about a month, she starts to notice. And she even sends him a text and says, whoever this man is, I love him. How long does he plan to stick around for?
Nice.
So she's just waiting for him to revert back to the old self.
Yeah.
And so I said, consistency, right? You got to keep showing up this way so she knows that this is not a short-term thing, that this is who you are now. And so she was kind of upset though, because she's like, I've been trying to work on this with you for 10 years and nothing happens. And then you go and talk to this girl for like 3 sessions and all of a sudden you're a completely different human being. Like, how is that even possible? So it is both effective and it definitely is better for both people to show up because both people have to take responsibility. And it's just way more fun when you're not doing this by yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Like fun is important.
Fascinating. All right. So how does someone let's say I saw this episode and I was like, I want to talk to her. I reach out to you, I don't know, via email or something. How does that first conversation go? Do you just say, do they have to fill out a sheet, or is it just you get on the phone with them or whatever and you just start getting into it? So do you do like an initial consultation, or do they have to buy in right away?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really great question. I don't take on everybody.
Sure.
There are certain people that I stay away from that I know already that isn't going to work. So the first one are people that have some deep, deep emotional and mental issues. I can sense bipolar, split borderline personality disorder, those kind of, I can tell. I've been doing this long enough. The second one are the know-it-alls, the ones who say yeah, but to every single thing I say. So it's like, okay, well, if you don't trust me and you think you know better than me, then save your time, save your money, and I don't know, go buy a book. I don't know.
Write a
But
book if you know it all.
right. Yeah. Um, yeah, I would say those are the big two, but I can definitely tell when they're the right fit. And also people who just want to talk about the problem, but they don't actually want to do anything about the problem.
Ah.
They just want to blame and shame and it's his fault. And no, that's not my world. And so I'll tell them that's where counseling is great. You just go talk it out, go bash each other in a somewhere. That's not what we do here.
That's a great segue. Explain the difference between counseling and coaching because there's obviously a difference.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, in my perspective, counseling is really great for talking about the past and what happened and why, and just like swimming in that I like to call dirty water. I'm all about, okay, what happened has happened. Now what? What do you want? Do you want a happy marriage? Okay, let's go build that. Let's go deal with everything that is in the way
Yeah.
of that. So it's really about how do we move forward? So we talk about your values, we talk about expectations, we talk about love languages, we talk about how do we support each other in a way that has us both thrive separately as individuals and we get our own me time, but also how do we come together as a team so that the house is more harmonious, the kids feel safe and loved, and we create structures and frameworks, right? So, for example, one thing I know is that men, when they come home from work, they don't want to be given tasks. They need 30 minutes to just sit and just like whatever their day, whether that's video games or whatever, they need that time.
Oh my
Women hate
God.
that.
Yes.
Women hate that. And I was like, what are you doing sitting around? All these things, right? And so creating like, okay, what is it that's actually needed? And how can both people get what they need? If he needs 30 minutes to just zone out and diffuse, how can she support him? And then after that 30 minutes is done, how can he support her? So
Sure.
that both people get what they want. It's
Absolutely.
actually sometimes super simple.
Yeah.
But we just don't have the language or the patience to actually hear what the other person needs because it's always tit for tat.
Yes.
And
Yes.
two people saying you need to listen to me, but nobody's actually listening.
Right.
So having someone like me in there to kind of navigate the conversation so that both people get what they need from the other. And then more importantly, creating the structure and the accountability to say, okay, this week, here's your homework. When he comes home, you're going to give him 30 minutes. You're not going to bother him. You're going to say, hi, honey, give him a hug, make him feel welcome home. And then after that 30 minutes, you're going to do that thing that she asked you to do to take the kids so that she can go have a shower, get something to eat, and then you go on with your life.
I love it. That's
Because
good.
great relationships take work. It's not like they just magically happen, like maybe for the first few months, but when you got kids and a job and a house to do, you got to be super organized and you got to be on the same page. And it can't be this like demanding thing, right? It's teamwork. And if you think about, I'm watching the playoffs right now in hockey. There's conversation, there's accountability, there's leadership, right? There is a sense of like a synchronicity that needs to happen, like a dance.
Yeah.
And some people are just stepping on each other's toes because no one ever teaches us how to dance that dance. So I teach the dance.
I love it. What do you think the biggest challenge facing couples right now? each era is different,
Yeah.
go back in time. The roles were different too. You had in the old days, maybe part of your culture, the mom maybe stayed at home.
Yeah.
Maybe the mom's out working, one person's picking up kids. Dad might be, working 60 hours a week. What do you think the biggest challenge for relationships are right now?
That people don't talk about expectations, that people get into relationships without doing the foundational hard stuff first. And then they wait till after they're married and then they bump up against things. But when you're in a high stress situation, you're not thinking with the right brain. You're just in like, I need to protect myself. I need to not be hurt. And that is not the space to create what teamwork and a marriage looks like. And so I think a lot of people often get pregnant first, right? So they're already in that like that parenthood where they don't even have time to build the friendship and
Yes.
the trust. They're kind of thrown to the wolves and they gotta like, or thrown in the deep water and they're just trying to make it, but they don't know how to swim, right? So, and I think that's a really great point is, back in the day, in our parents' days, it was totally normal for the wife to stay home and take care of the kids and the husband to go to work. He wasn't expected to be emotionally supportive. He was just, his only job was to bring home the bacon.
Yeah.
And now men are expected to bring home the bacon, be the emotional support, take care of the kids, take out the recycling, and all these other things. Be romantic. There is a lot.
A lot.
And again, if we don't have the right support or role models or examples in our life, we only do what we know. And I think the other issue, Clarence, is that a lot of people are growing up with only one, like with no siblings. So we're not taught how to share, how to be conscious of other people around us. We're just, I find single children are very in their own bubble. They don't really think about what's going on with other people. And so they go into a marriage and the wife is like, my husband just left the house. He didn't even tell me where he was going. And the guy's like, well, big deal. I was just going to the store. It's like, well, but why didn't you tell me? But it's not like he doesn't care. He just doesn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it too. And then again, the increase of divorce, where people are being brought up in homes with single mom, single dad. And a lot of times there's a lot of anger, resentment, frustration, and it's sometimes taken out on the kids.
Yeah.
And so the kids are often felt like they're not wanted and that they're an inconvenience.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I think that goes back to what you said is the initial expectations and communication. Like that example you gave him going to the store, he may have grew up going, I know parents whose kids will be out and about and you're like, hey, where are your kids? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Kids come home, it's not a conversation. Then there's strict parents who are like, I need to know where you are every moment you're not in school. Be home before the lights are off. You
yeah,
know, so that ties into growing up. Hey, I'm just going to the store. Well, I live here. Why are you worried about it? I mean, I'm not going to New Mexico.
yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
back.
exactly.
But then that's how you should have said. But I don't know if that comes out when you first are dating somebody. Like I like to just leave the house and not say anything. That probably happens. And then instead of the reaction, maybe better communication of, hey, you left and how I grew up. And a lot of times, what you're saying, if you take the judging off of it, like instead of saying, you just left the house, that pissed me off. I didn't know where you were. And now the person's defensive.
Yeah,
Versus, how I grew up, and I've said this a lot. I'm real, like if I'm dating somebody's living with me, just simple, hey, I'm at the store. I went down the street. I'm coming home late. Just so we know. I'm not keeping track of you. I just peace of mind. If you're not here, just helps me out. And
yeah,
you communicate that, it doesn't come across as like he's just wants to know everywhere I'm going, and you go into this thing, and now it's like,
right.
yeah, it's just communication, I think, is
Yeah.
what you're
Well,
talking about.
yeah. And well, one of my tricks with my husband, so one of the things I teach my clients is about acknowledge the behavior that you want more of. So
Ah,
when I first met my husband, well, I shouldn't say first, but my husband has always been overweight until recently. He's now like chiseled and gorgeous but
oh,
all his whole life he was a big boy. And I was trying to get him to go to the gym, but he's like, eh. Anyway, so he finally goes to the gym with me. And I noticed the next day that his arm was a little toned. And so I grabbed his arm and I said, "Oh, babe, your arm looks like it's more defined." He's like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah, it's kind of hot." He's like, "Oh." And then he
I'm in
goes, "Oh,
gym.
I think I'm gonna go to the gym tomorrow."
Yeah.
This man goes to the gym 5 days a week, lost 100 pounds.
Nice. Congratulations.
And he
What is
sends me,
motivation?
yeah, and he sends me a photo every single day when he's at the gym. Because I know he does it to get to get more love from
That's what's
me. He
coming
knows
home,
that.
baby.
Yeah. And so he works hard to make sure he looks good.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge the crap out of him because I know that that's the fuel he needs.
Yeah.
Right. And so sometimes we think that fear and like that, the thing that our parents did to us is how we motivate people to change. But I teach the opposite. I say, when my husband does something really great for me, I make sure he knows that, honey, you know what? Thank you so much for getting that ice cream that wasn't even on the list. And you knew that that was my favorite ice cream. Thank you for being so thoughtful. And so it's like, oh, okay, being thoughtful, good. Janelle likes that. And so he does that all the time without me even asking.
Love that. That is awesome. Let me ask you this. What do you think of, do you think gender roles is a thing, and do you think it's important?
What do you
In the
mean?
sense
Say
of
more.
in a relationship, the man does this, the woman does. If we're probably the same age, but back in the days, that's how it was. The woman did
Hmm.
this, the man did this. Now things have evolved. Do you think people should say this is what I'm gonna do, or should they talk about who has the strength and weaknesses and work as a team?
Yeah. My husband and I, yeah, I don't to the answer that question. Yeah, me and my husband do very different things. My husband is the cook.
Ooh, you got a good one. He said, "Chef,
I know.
you got the most romantic guy in the world."
Oh, you're telling me. And if I say something like, "Ooh, duck," like we love MasterChef, love watching MasterChef,
I
and
love
he'll
it.
get ideas. And if I
Yeah,
say anything like, "Ooh, duck," he makes a little mental note. Janelle likes duck. And then next thing he knows, it's like, "Ooh, anniversary. I should make duck for Janelle." But yeah, we gotta just talk about it.
yeah. You have to talk things through.
Right. And, I can tell where he does not like to do laundry and we end up fighting about laundry. It's like, you know what? Do you want me to do laundry? Because
Yeah,
I got no problems doing your laundry.
yeah.
And, I work late. So I'm like, honey, hey, do you think you can chop up the stuff and, get everything ready? But eventually became that he just did all of it. And again, I just appreciate it so much. And I'm like, wow, baby, this is so good. So again, he feels so good for making me dinner, and he gets to be the hero, and he gets all the love and affection. And I make sure that I show him a lot of affection and appreciation because that's his love language.
I love that. That is amazing.
So our relationship, when I said earlier that our relationship is easy, it's easy because we understand what each other's motivations are. So we're not trying to do a million things to try to please our partner. We're focusing on one or two things, which is appreciation and teamwork and
So,
communication.
when was the last time you guys had a fight, and how did it end?
It's probably been 5 or 6 years.
Okay. Was it a blowout or was it?
No. Okay, so here, I'll tell you what it was. So my husband is the talker. I'm the walkawayer.
Okay.
Okay. In my family, when I was growing up, I have three siblings. When we would fight, we would battle it out, then we would walk away into our rooms, we would cool down, and then we'd come back into the living room and act like nothing happened.
Yeah.
No apology, no conversation, just we're back to loving each other as though it didn't happen. So that's how I grew up, right? For him, he's the opposite. Like he wants to talk about it and like he wants to apologize. And I'm like, I don't want that. I just want to go back to the way it was. Anyway, so we got into this conversation and he started to it started to go that way. And I started to say to him, honey, like this conversation isn't going anywhere. And I'm getting really frustrated and I need a timeout. I need a 5-minute timeout. He wouldn't give it to me. I said, honey, if we keep going, I'm gonna say something really mean because I used to be bullied as a kid. So my mouth can, I can
I don't
talk.
know why I
I
believe
talk
it. I
smack.
just see that you have that side.
You can't see that I have that
No,
side?
I see that.
Oh, you
I
see it.
think you, yeah, I'm pretty good at
I'm
reading.
sassy. I can be really
I can
sassy.
see that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened. He got me into I felt like I was backed into a corner and I just said stuff that was not so nice. And then he got upset. And then we had a little bit of a, thing. And then about an hour later, we came back. And so I had to say to him, like, listen, honey, when you do that, I feel like you're not listening and I'm getting really frustrated. What I said, first of all, I apologize for. I didn't mean it. And I need you to give me my space. And so he said to me, well, honey, the reason I don't give you your space, because I'm afraid that you going for a walk is means that you're never going to come home.
Wow.
Like he
How'd
admitted
that
that.
make you feel?
I just kind of was like, oh, honey, like, of course I'm gonna come home. I said, I
Why would
promise.
he say that? Did he have an issue in the past where someone he cared about leave him?
I don't know.
It's a deep statement.
Yeah. Well, I do know that when he was growing up, he had, I think, one relationship his whole life other than me.
Okay.
He experienced a lot of rejection, especially from women,
Yeah.
because he was so painfully shy and
Mm,
he was overweight.
gotcha. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what that is. I've been trying to like pick and try to figure out where it comes from because his parents are like amazing, beautiful, non-judgmental, wholesome people. So I don't think it's from his parents, but there's definitely something going on. But this is the thing I love about my husband. He wears his heart on his sleeve and he just says what's right there for him. And so I was able to say, honey, my promise, my commitment is that I just need the 5 minutes to come from my crazy brain where all that mean stuff comes and come back to myself so that we can have a normal conversation. And so once we had that conversation, it's never happened again. So when I'm like, honey, I need a timeout. But to be honest, I haven't had to need a timeout. I can't even remember the last time I asked for a timeout because we just got it. I don't know. We just figured each other out and we're both committed to peace and love that we know the things that, you got to pick your battles.
Right.
But we've been together for 18 years. So I feel like we just know each other so well that
Yeah.
we know when that trap is about to snap and we know how to back off that trap.
Gotcha. So if people were gonna love your personality like I do, how can they follow you and get coaching from you? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. But the best place that they can find me is on my website, and that is saveourmarriage.ca or
Mhm.
janellegreen.com, whatever works for you. And in there, they can actually book a free consultation with me to see if we're a fit, because fit is extremely important. And
Absolutely.
when the fit is strong and good, my clients, even in the realm of infidelity, see a huge breakthrough by week 3, week 4.
Quick
And they typically
question for
work,
you.
pardon me?
I'll say quick question for you. How long is the typical counseling with you? Is it ongoing or do you have like camps like 6 weeks and your marriage is fixed or
Yeah,
like
typically,
ongoing?
typically 12 weeks,
Okay.
typically. Now, there are some clients that come to me for one very specific reason, right? That's like our relationship's great, but the communication sucks. So we might only work together for 6 weeks. I don't believe in keeping people longer than they need to be with me because I want them to go on with their lives. But I do
Okay.
create like a maintenance structure where maybe we meet up every 2 weeks or maybe once a month for, let's say, 6 months, whatever they want. Honestly, it's whatever works. But typically I work, if it's a couples, I meet with them privately as well as a couple. So I meet with them for 2 hours a week. But if they come to me as a single, and sometimes they do, and sometimes it's not about saving the marriage. Sometimes it's like, hey, Janelle, this marriage is killing me and I need to get out. And I don't know how to do that without destroying everyone and everything around me. So it's all very different. And yeah, and that's why I offer the consult is to make sure that I can help them because I'm not going to take them on if that's not I stay in my lane. Let's just say that. I know how to stay in my own lane.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom with everybody. This was definitely different than I thought, so I
Good,
appreciate
good.
that.
I think it's good, right?
It is very good.
Okay, good.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Fit Over 40.